update now on the grass fire out at the SpaceX Boca Chica launch site. It happened right after a static fire test yesterday afternoon. We learned today from Texas Parks and Wildlife that 68 acres of brush was burned at a protected refuge over the course of about 5 hours. A wildlife biologist with Coastal Bays and Estuaries program went out there today to check out the damage. She said they found dead wildlife as well as destroyed vegetation.
Is definitely a concern, and I do think that SpaceX has mitigation to do in regards to this to make sure that this isn't a regularly occurring thing, because small fires out there can very quickly turn into large fires.
We also learned today six of Starship's engines were lit up for the test. And that's video on your screen right now of the static fire. We have a request pending with U.S. Fish and Wildlife to find out the impact to their part of the property.
SpaceX damaging Mother Earth, keeping up with the Jones. Where were you when the world stopped turning? Congresswoman calls out Brownsville, Texas mayor. It is Monday, September the 12th, 7:03 a.m. My name is Frankie Weevil, and this is Good Morning Brownsville. Now, we can all remember where we were on September 11th, 2001. It is one of those days where we can visualize ourselves the time we got the news of what happened. Now, we are all aware of the tragic events that happened on that day. But you and I can agree that all that day on September 11th, 2001, we all remember how we were all glued to the TV. We all remember how we all were. We all remember how we were on that day. I'm working on the mic. Now, we all remember how that day on September 11, 2001, where were you when the world stopped turning? It seems as if that is a day that we are going to tell our loved ones of where we were. If we ask our elders what significant event they remember so vividly, my grandparents would say the JFK assassination. That is something that the world stopped and everybody was glued to their TVs. Well, yesterday was something very similar. And yesterday we did celebrate over 20 years of the tragic events of September 11th. And it is sad to state that many people have, used this to their advantage regarding foreign countries. But nonetheless, this day changed the way our government views things. The Patriot Act, which many conspiracy theorists have said that this was used by the government to have more control over us. But nonetheless, everything changed on that September day. Who can forget how traveling now, the TSA, now they are very stringent on what we can take on the plane. They are more observant. And most of all, the main priority and concern is safety. But yesterday, September 11th, was a day in which we will never forget. We'll always remember where we were on that tragic day. I was a freshman at Hannah High, first period baseball. And when they mentioned the Twin Towers, I had no idea what they were talking about. I thought it was the San Antonio Spurs, Tim Duncan and David Robinson. I was so naive back then. I had no clue what the significance or the tragic events that had transpired. But nonetheless, September 11th, you and I can agree that is a day that we can remember what we were doing, how we felt. And we even though I was 14, 15, after watching the news for the whole week, I felt some sort of patriotism. This caused the nation to come together as one and care more about our country. Not that people didn't before, but it just changed our perspective of life. But that day is one which we will always remember where we were. It is a day how the president said during Pearl Harbor, it is one that we will live in infamy. Now, keeping up with the Jones, it's hard, especially in this day and age where everything seems so expensive. Many of us are living paycheck to paycheck. Inflation is through the roof. Rent is expensive, especially in our part of town, in Brownsville, Texas. Uh, the youth nowadays, uh, they have to have the latest gadgets. They have to have the latest trends. And growing up in today's world is very, very expensive. Just last week, Apple did introduce their new products as they do every year. And for all those iPhone users today, make sure you get the latest update, the iOS 16, which should be coming out in the next few hours. These latest updates should be focusing on security. Just last week, there was a security breach where Apple feared that they found a loophole in which hackers were using, and they would be able to get access to all of your phone, your text messages, your pictures, and any other information that the user had. But nonetheless, you and I can agree, keeping up with the Jones, four-car garage, and we're still building on. It's hard to keep up with the Jones. Life's expensive. I remember growing up, I always wanted the latest Nikes, and my family said, you know what, be lucky with what you have. My grandma would always tell me, my grandma Lupita, I would ask her for clothes, and she'd buy me like one or two, she'd buy me like 4 or 5 things, no de marca, but then she would say, what do you prefer? You prefer one expensive pant or four? And I said, well, grandma, I want one. I want what they have. Keeping up with the Jones is very, very expensive. Apple, in its latest presentation, they did show how the iPhone 14 was going to come out. It's a little bit bigger, but regarding the software, mostly everything is the same. Uh, Steve Jobs' daughter, she did come out in the news because she did state that, all these products, they're the same each year. There is no need for one to be upgrading constantly. But you and I can agree that this is a trend which many people jump on. They need to have the latest gadgets. Why? Because comadre and compadre have it. And we see that a lot with people. Oh, we need to have what the compadres have. Why? Because if not, you're not cool, or people look down on you. It happens with cars. It happens with houses. Everybody wants that picture perfect life, and you need to have everything that the compadres or comadres have. But keeping up with the Jones, it is something that many people aren't able to afford, especially in today's society where we don't have jobs. We don't have those high-paying occupations which are able to provide. And as we all know, the world today is very, very expensive. The latest AirPods that have come out, they're just different in design, and you have seen how the evolution of the AirPods have gone throughout the years. Also now, Apple is going into the market against the different speakers and headsets that are out there, going up against the likes of Dr. Dre and Beats, which all the teens seem to have. But nonetheless, are there changes in phones? Not really. The software is the same. There is one or two, differences that we might find, but nonetheless, everything is the same. The only thing that Apple really came out with this year was a satellite services. Whenever individuals do have emergencies and they find themselves out in the wilderness, out in places where your typical or normal cell phone providers can't reach, people can use the satellite on the iPhones. That is something that Apple did recently introduce. But regarding the technology, regarding the software, regarding the phone, it's still the exact same phone. The only things that has changed really is the size of the phone now, and we're going towards an era where the phones are going to be iPads now. We all want bigger. We all want better. Uh, Apple just recently released the new iPhone 14 and AirPods. No changes were made. Only the size of the iPhone Max. If you're into the bigger phones, that might be the one that you select. But regarding software, regarding technology, it is still the same. But again, in today's society, keeping up with the Jones, we have to get what's bigger. We have to get what's better. Apparently, no matter the cost. Will you be getting your new iPhone? Will you be keeping up with the Jones? Now, here locally, there have been growing concerns regarding SpaceX, and ever since Cameron County and SpaceX did come to an agreement, the MOU, which was signed back in 2013, 2014. Many environmentalists have been questioning the role that SpaceX has. And as of late, many people have questioned and said, hey, how many hours are allocated? Many fishermen, many sports enthusiasts who regularly use Boca Chica Beach have been up in arms because SpaceX have been closing access to the public beaches more than their allocated times. Many individuals have stated, are we bending over for SpaceX? Elon Musk did give the city of Brownsville $10 million. He did give Cameron County schools money as well. Have we given him the keys to our beach? Is it Musk's island or is it still considered Boca Chica? Many people would argue and say, no, it's Musk's island, and we are just using his island. Well, many environmentalists have questioned the role that SpaceX would have in our local area. Are we damaging our local environmentalists? Are we affecting our local ecosystem and our environment, our wildlife, with these tests and with these explosions? And this is the third explosion that we have had in our area. Just last week, SpaceX did burn over 68 acres of refugee land. And many individuals have questioned and said, hey, fire is good. Out with the old, in with the new. Mother Earth will clean itself. We did start off today's show with an environmentalist speaking about how the wildlife were affected. Animals did die. Haven't you noticed that much attention has not been given? Much attention has been given to the fires. Port Isabel recently, they did come out in the news because they were concerned, and with the engines and the power of the engines and how that would affect Port Isabel and the local area. Many individuals have stated, well, this is something that we need. SpaceX is going to have its tests, and whatever the outcome is, we need it. Boca Chica to Mars, it seems. But shouldn't we be worried about the effects it's going to have on our local ecosystem? While many individuals have stated, hey, it's all about the money. We don't care about the effects that these explosions have on our area. But many people have questioned and said, is it worth it? Is the money worth us killing Mother Earth? And I think many individuals have already accepted this. Many individuals have stated, you know what? It's okay. We need SpaceX. They are our crown jewel. We need this money. Do we really? One individual called me out and said, oh, Frankie, this is just a fire. It's going to grow back. But 68 acres of protected refugee land was burned. I want us to close our eyes and visualize that. Don't we see the animals dying? Don't we see our local habitat being affected? Is this something that we're willing to overlook because it's SpaceX? Because it's Elon Musk? Haven't you noticed that there haven't been much attention to these incidents? And this is the third major explosion that has happened. Many individuals don't want to talk about this. Why? Because it's Elon. We don't want to piss off Elon. We don't want him to get mad and pack up his things and leave us. Not that it's going to happen anytime soon, because as we all know, SpaceX has invested billions of dollars in our local area. But this is the aftermath of this past week's fire. Again, 68 acres of refugee land was burnt. Are we okay with SpaceX committing these and saying, oops, I'm sorry, we're working on it, we'll see how it goes? Is this a trial and error? Are we okay with SpaceX burning acres and acres because, oh, it's going to grow back? What about the animals? What about the local habitat, our ecosystem? How is that being affected? Will the animals grow back? Do we believe that they're going to not be affected by this? Again, this is something that should worry us. Why? Because this is our own backyard. Are we okay with an outsider coming, testing his toys, and if there's an explosion, oops, it's for the better of humanity. We're testing this. And this, ladies and gentlemen, this is only with one or two engines. This isn't at full force. Again, these are tests. They are amping up. They are trying to see what works and what doesn't. Brownsville, Boca Chica is Elon Musk's guinea pig. That's all it is. Trial and error. What works? Oh, 68 acres were burned? Oops. We'll fix that. It seems as if our community is okay with Elon Musk burning and having these explosions, because at the end of the day, it's Elon Musk. And no matter what happens, he is the world's richest man, and we can't tell him anything. I wait 2 years, Mr. Pettis. I wait 2 years from when I get a phone. That's around the time my payment plan, when I finish paying for my phone. So I wait 2 years whenever I upgrade. Yeah, if you go to my Frankie Olivo page, you're able to do so. But yeah, it takes a while. Also, another thing that has been affecting our local community has been PUB. When we ran for BISD, we talk about the importance of going out to vote, and how the importance of getting individuals on the BISD board that were going to be transparent, that we're going to be looking out for the best interests of our community. And that is something that is a platform that we ran on. Unfortunately, we weren't given that opportunity to serve our community. And many individuals weren't really as enthusiastic about going out to vote, about being involved in the process. Now, what we have seen as of late has been that many individuals, either rich, poor, and somewhere in the middle, have been asking these questions about PUB. What is going on with my light bill? Now, whenever it affects the pocketbooks of individuals, that is when we see that individuals will be taking a more active role and asking these tough questions and saying, hey, what the heck is going on with PUB? Many individuals were outraged whenever PUB had an event, and they were passing out little fans. One individual said, yeah, whenever you receive your bill, you can use your fan so you won't faint. Does PUB have jokes? Now, this was at the zoo, of course, but nonetheless, why haven't we heard our local politicians ask these tough questions? I was in a discussion with one of my friends, and he said, you know what? All you do is complain. People tune you out because all you do is you just complain. You have no solutions. You don't talk about what we should do. It's unfortunate that individuals think that one shouldn't complain. One doesn't see the need that this is a genuine concern. Why? Because many individuals have to decide whether, and mainly for our elderly community, they have to decide whether should I pay for my medication or should I pay for my light bill. Now, times are tough, as we all know, and the way our world is going, life is very expensive, and many elderly individuals, they live on a fixed income, social security. To many of our elderly population here, they give six, seven, $800, depending on their situations. But nonetheless, many individuals, you and I, we can ask for a loan. We can ask our family members, hey, do you have $200-300 so I could pay for my light bill? Many individuals don't have the luxury of asking for people for money because they have to pay the rent. And many of our elderly community, they have to make that tough decision. Do I pay for my medication or do I pay for my light bill? But one thing that I do want to throw out there is, haven't you noticed that no elected official is taking an active role in asking these tough questions? How my friend said, all you do is complain. My friend does not realize that these are genuine concerns that our community has. Why? Because while we understand that electricity rates in other areas are going up, the city of Brownsville is one of few, if not the only one, that have raised over $130 million from its people to try and build a Tenaska plant. We are still going into the process of finding out where exactly that $100 plus million went. Many of our elected officials don't even know themselves. But one thing that I want to ask my community is, why haven't our politicians, whether that be on the TSC board, the BISD board, the city commission, the Cameron County Commission, why haven't they been asking what's going on at PUB? My theory is that individuals, these politicians, these politicians, they don't want to ask these questions because I feel as if they will be stepping on other people's toes. And many individuals, once they get to a political seat, if you have noticed, they don't like to make waves. Why? Because they don't want that attention. They don't want other politicians to say, oh, really? You're going up against me? All right. Well, I'll remember when you're coming up for election. Why is it only a few individuals that are complaining? Oh, my friend says, all you do is complain. Why isn't these elected officials? Why do people run for public office? I generally feel that individuals run for public office because they want to make a difference within our community. Well, one thing that we can agree on is that PUB is bending us over and taking us for all we have. There's been one elected official as of late that have been fighting for the citizens of Brownsville, that have been questioning the role of our elected leaders. Mayra Flores recently made this comment and said that PUB should have saved the cost from fans and gave it back to the Brownsville residents that are paying triple the amount in electricity. I have yet to hear back from Mayor Trey Mendez. The silence from the mayor's office on this issue speak volumes. Now, the answer that we have gotten from our elected officials is, we're an audit. It's an audit. I can't talk about it. We'll talk about it once it comes, once the information comes out. But haven't you noticed that no one on the city, on the county, BISD, nobody is making us think about this? Are they not seeing that our people are suffering? PUB has monopolized the city of Brownsville. Magic Valley is only provided to county areas here within our city. You and I can agree something has to change. Commissioner Rodrigo Santos recently came out on Erasmo Castro show, and he did state that in order for changes to be made, there have to be changes to the charter, and there's a lot of legal ramifications to that. But nonetheless, you and I can agree something needs to change. And why hasn't our local elected officials been more vocal? Why is it us? And look, we have seen the statements, $500, $600, $700, up to $1,000, $1,300. The most I've seen is $1,300 for an office space of 12 to 1,500 square foot office. Something has to change. But one thing that bothers me is that these politicos, nobody's saying a peep. Aren't they paying the same rates as us? Aren't they suffering? Aren't they saying, hey, something has to be done. No one at the port as well is asking these tough questions. Why is it only us few? And my friend said, all you do is complain. And I said, well, why don't you complain with me, my friend? And this is a politician, ladies and gentlemen. I said, why don't you complain? And his answer was, well, I'm providing jobs. And I was like, you know what? That's great. That's great that you're providing jobs. But wouldn't the city commission listen to what you have to say? If you have Frank Olivo, if you have Erasmo Castro complaining, you know what they're going to do? Tan locos. All right, your 3 minutes. All right, go. Time's up. But if an elected official stood up before them and said, we need change, free my people, let's open up the market, you know what they would do? They would be like this. Oh, yes, okay, sir, yes, okay. His word would have weight. Why? Because he's an elected official. But why don't we see our politicians having a more active role? Because it's not in their best interest. Because they do not want to make waves. They don't want to step on other people's toes. They don't want that heat being thrown back at them whenever they run for re-election. Let's take a look at the board of directors that sit on PUB. One of them is our very own mayor at the very bottom, Mayor Trey Mendez. We have Sandra Science, Patricio Sampaio. Sampaio is in everything, guys. If he's not in the housing authority, he's in everything. He has his hands in everything. Sandra Langley, I do not know. Jude Benavides is a friend of Mayor Mendez, a buddy, Arrendon. But one that sticks out is Mayor Mendez. Mayor Mendez is on that board. Haven't you seen him be more vocal? Have you seen him fight for the people of Brownsville? Say, hey, people, I'm on the board. I'm going to get this done. No elected official is making a peep out of this. Why is that? Because it's not in their best interest, ladies and gentlemen. It's not in their best interest for them to say that we need to change the charter. Now, we understand that PUB currently right now is at an audit. But why aren't our elected officials being more vocal? The only one that has been vocal about this has been Mayra Flores. And many individuals, and my community, I want y'all to have an open mind this coming November. What have our Democrats done for us? I'm 35 years old, and I'll talk about what I know. He was at the bottom of the list. You're going to get me canceled. I'm 35 years old, and I'll talk about what I know. For the past 35 years, South Texas has been one of the poorest areas in all of the nation. We do not have jobs. We do not have resources here in our local area for our youth to stay and thrive. You know, it's unfortunate that my brothers, they have to go to Tennessee, Midland, Ohio, just to get a good wage, to make an honest living. You and I can agree that there is no opportunity here for our local area. Who have controlled our area? Democrats. Why haven't our local politicians been more vocal about PUB? PUB is a very serious issue, ladies and gentlemen. Why? Because it affects us. It affects everybody, whether you're rich or you're poor. Now we have doctors that are questioning, hey, something's got to give, something's got to change. And you know, when it happens to us poor folks, for us common peasants, those elected officials, they really don't listen. They said, eso ni votan. Whenever you start talking about doctors, whenever you start talking about individuals with money, individuals that do go out and vote, educated people, that's when the politicians say, oh, yes, we have a problem. The only one, ladies and gentlemen, that has been a champion for us here in the city of Brownsville regarding this PUB issue is Mayra Flores. I have yet to hear from Mayor Trey Mendez. The silence from the mayor's office on this issue speaks volumes. Don't you think that our elected officials should be more vocal? Don't you want them to ask the tough questions? Why is it us? Why is it us common folks fighting for the mass majority of the Brownsville residents? Didn't BISD, didn't the port, didn't the city commission, didn't the county commission, didn't TSC, didn't they take an oath to serve their constituents and to be their champion? What have we seen? We have seen totally the opposite. Nobody wants to ask these tough questions. The only champion that we have is Mayra Flores. I want you to remember this come November, because this is a very serious issue, because it deals with our pocketbooks. It affects us, our money, our elderly. And like I said, I could ask my family for a couple $100. You can ask your family for a couple $100 to pay for your bills. But what about our elderly community that lived on a fixed income? They have the tough decision of, should I pay for my light bill, or should I pay for my prescription? Should I pay for my medication? And that is sad when we don't have individuals that are fighting for our elderly community. Don't fight for me. I'll figure it out. I'll find a way. I'll survive. Fight for my family. Fight for my elderly community. Fight for my grandparents. Those individuals that live on a fixed income. All you do is complain, my friend said. Well, we have a genuine concern, because this affects the pocketbooks of our elderly community. Mayra Flores has been the only one that has been asking these tough questions. Mayra Flores is a champion of Brownsville, because she wants our community to have a fair share. We have, for the longest time, we have been getting the runaround regarding Tenasca and the $100+ million that we just don't know what happened to it. Mayra Flores has been that champion. Remember that in November. And that, my friends, is the rest of the story. Keeping up with the Jones, 4-car garage, and we're still building on. Apple recently released the latest iPhones, the iPhones 14, 14 Max, the AirPods. They will be having a satellite service for those individuals that find themselves in rural areas and need an emergency. But do we really need a new iPhone? I always wait 2 years. I always wait to pay off my phone in 2 years, and then I'll upgrade. But individuals, they do it every year. Will you be getting your new iPhone? Where were you when the world stopped turning on that September day? Who can forget 21 years ago when the world was at a standstill? We can all remember vividly how we felt on that day. And we were all glued to the TV, if not all day, all week. We felt some sort of patriotism on that day. Where were you when the world stopped turning on that September day? SpaceX damaging Mother Earth. This past week, SpaceX explosion did cause a fire of 68 acres of refugee land. And individuals have not really made this a big issue. Some people have said, hey, a brush fire, a fire is good. You know, it cleans out the old and it will grow back. But should we put it past them? Are we saying this? It's okay because Elon Musk, he's going to get us to Mars and he's going to bring Brownsville, Texas, all this economic boom that we so desperately need. Is this something that our community just says, it's a fire? But remember, this is a test. This is something that they're building up to. We've already had three explosions as of late. What happens whenever all the Raptor engines are ready to go on launch day? How will that affect our area? It was 68 acres today. Tomorrow, could it be 100 acres? 200 acres? Only time will tell. Congresswoman calls out Brownsville, Texas mayor. It seems as if our politicos are so hell-bound and not stepping on nobody's toes. They don't want to make waves. They don't want to ask those tough questions. They don't want to say, what is going on, city of Brownsville? Why don't you change the charter? Haven't you noticed that? No one, not one elected official has come out and said, we need change. Free my people. The only champion that the city of Brownsville has is Mayra Flores. She is the only one. She is the only one that has dared to ask these questions. And she said the silence of the mayor and his office on the PUB issue speaks volumes. Why haven't our politicos asked these tough questions? Why is it only us? Why is it only a few of us? Because they do not want to make waves. The only one that is making waves and wants to fight for her people is Mayra Flores. I want you to remember her in November. Thank you so much for your time and your attention. It is Monday, September 12th, 7:36 a.m. I do apologize. I thought I fixed the audio tech issue. Technology, it's an ongoing issue, but I promise I will fix this on Wednesday. Thank you for your time and your attention. Hope to see you here on the next this coming Wednesday. Same bat time, same Batman channel.